Peace to all those within the sound of this broadcast. It's your brother INFMEGA building and adding on with you. And on this day, I would like to share some knowledge and wisdom with you. My knowledge and wisdom has taken me to ciphers all over the country. Recently, I was contacted by the God Kaliv out of Power Hill, Philadelphia. Up until this point, I never met the God physically. The God must have done a nod to a law school in Mecca page and appreciated the work that I have produced. So he decided that I would be fit to document his old Earth's history. Some of you may know his parents and their extensive history. His old dad was a God named Islam, also known as the Cremator, in part because he was the one who pushed the cremation button when Allah's physical remains were cremated in 1969. His old Earth's name is Wisdom Understanding, who got knowledge back in the early God cipher years. When the God Kaliv contacted me, he told me his old Earth was put on hospice due to her physical condition and didn't know how long she had to live. He entrusted me to document her history before she returned to her essence. I was honored that the God saw what I do fit to capture Wisdom Understanding's history. He informed me that she was also eager to share her history. Considering how extensive her history is, I knew how important it was to document it before she returned home. The God Kaliv and his old Earth rested in Power Hill, Philadelphia. And at the time, I was wrapped up in dealing with family and domestic sciences, so I couldn't just get out to them immediately. So I figured I would do a phone interview with her. She agreed. We went over some history over the phone. Peace, Wisdom Understanding. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there all night. And yourself?
I'm good. My name is Allah Infinite. I've heard a lot about you.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about you, and I know you got a lot of history. And is there anything that you would like to build on?
Well, just my life in this way of life ever since I came into the knowledge and God's understanding. January the 18th. January the 18th. And I have been here ever since.
Okay, so can you tell me like what was it like, in the early years?
Well, in the early years, was much different than it is now. In the early years, when we didn't have rallies on Parliament Day, there was always a rally going on in somebody's apartment where the gods would be in the living room building, and the earth, it would be in the kitchen, cooking and acknowledging the young. Back in those days. And other than that, it was just more people coming, more interest, it seems to me. Not so much distance and the secrecy of stuff. Don't let nobody know this, don't let nobody know that. To my mind, if you're right and exact, there's no reason that you have to hide anything.
And although she shared much over the phone, I knew it was very important to meet her in person. So I decided to take a trip to Power Hill, a place I've only passed through once, and I wasn't really familiar with its history. So I figured it was a perfect time to get educated in that history. Philadelphia is a city in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Philly, or Power Hill as it is known in the 5% nation, is only 142.7 square miles in total, with land covering 134.28 square miles and water covering 8.42 square miles. Taking the Greyhound from now Wild City, it's a 2-hour trip. The God Kaliv picked me up from the bus terminal, and on the way to build with his old Earth, he went through some of his own history.
Growing up in a nation, God, that was it wasn't so much growing up in a nation that was heavy weight to carry. It was who my parents are. You know what I mean? So my father, Islam. You know what I mean? He's if not the first, one of the first. But I'm gonna go step out on the limb here, guys, and say he's the first Latino God to get knowledge. You know what I mean? And we got the knowledge. He was 12 years old, and I remember the story my grandmother told me is that the day he got knowledge, he came home and said, Mom, I met God and I am God. So then my granddaughter, she put the phone call out. She said, you know, my father's honorable name is Harry. She said, have you see Harry? Harry done went crazy. He done said he met God and he is God. You know what I mean? And before it was all said and done, God, they don't call him nothing but can do. Even my granddaughter call him nothing but can do. You know what I mean? But my father's history, like I said, his history is so extensive that, you know, when the father returned, he was the one who pushed the button to cremate the father. You know what I mean? So he's known in our nation as the cremator of the nation. You know what I mean? So that's just my father's history, and then my mother, you know, wisdom, understanding. You know, her history in the nation is long and extensive as well. And, you know, so growing up, having, you know, both of them in the same house and having, because usually, you know, in our nation, when you're born in the nation, it's usually, you know, your father, it's only one in the nation. You know what I mean? It's usually the father's in the nation and the mother or the old earth is
something else.
You know what I mean? So when you're doing something else, you know what I mean? Not being witness to our teachers or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's kind of easy for you to kind of, you know, get away from shit, but I couldn't get away from it, God. Like, so every morning I had to come downstairs and write the mathematics on the board, on the chalkboard. You know,
so you had a chalkboard in the house?
We had a chalkboard in the house. We got to write it out, God. We had to write every morning, erase it, write it, you know what I mean? And if the degree was too long, like if you're dealing with the wisdom build degree in the 140, like how you gonna write that on the chalkboard? But certain degrees, you know, it was okay. You didn't have to write that because it was too long. But at the same time, as a young guy, when you start dealing with lessons in degree, like I was able to know, when I say knowledge 120, I was able to memorize it, God, when I was about knowledge culture, knowledge power. You know what I mean? But to be able to understand it at that age, it's high science, God. You know what I mean? When you're talking 13, 14 years old, you're not really getting the full understanding. I mean, even though, you know, even when you teach and you can only give a person knowledge and wisdom, you can't give them understanding, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like it was a struggle for me. So I didn't really start coming into my own and really starting to understand 120 God until I got my, you know, my mid wisdom degrees, you know what I mean? But I was teaching. It didn't stop me from teaching, God. I was teaching the whole school, my whole high school, you know what I mean?
I like this INFMEGA. Do it again.